Welcome to Nada Yada Island.
Next on Metro's Nada Yada Island podcast.
I almost fainted when the 4 new bombshells arrived. 4 free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G phones at Metro.
No way.
And finding out the 4th line is free. Oh, things got heated.
That's wild. Join Metro and get 4 free Samsung 5G phones. Only at Metro.
Plus tax. Bring 4 numbers and an ID and sign up for any Metro Flex plan. Not available currently at T-Mobile or have been with Metro in the past 180 days.
Are negative Google reviews hurting your business? Don't let unfair feedback cost you customers. At Webamax, we specialize in removing false, misleading, and damaging reviews so your online reputation stays strong. Our expert team works quickly and legally to clean up your digital presence, helping you rebuild trust. Visit us on the web at www.gowebamax.com. That's GOWEBIMAX.com, or text us for a free quote at 856-840-8343. Don't let bad reviews define you. Get immediate help from Webamax.
Hey there, Duke fans. Episode 696 of the Duke Basketball Roundup, the DBR Podcast. Jason Evans here for you. I do not have Donald with me today. He was very busy lawyering, doing his whole stuff as a legal consultant type dude, so he didn't have time for this, but I wanted to bring you something very special. I am joined now by one of my classmates from the Duke class of 1989. You may have heard of him before. His name is Danny Ferry. Danny, welcome to the DBR Podcast. That's all the intro you're going to get, man. I'm not going to go, he was National Player of the Year, he was all ACC, blah, 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 blah. None of that. Everybody knows your story.
Well, thank you. It's really nice to be with you.
There you go. Thanks, man. All right. Now, I want to catch people up on where you are right now. You're currently an NBA scout with the San Antonio Spurs.
A senior advisor. A senior advisor.
Senior advisor.
It's a fancy name for nothing.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing for the team and what your role is in the NBA these days.
Well, I've the last 4 or 5 years, I've done the senior advisor thing for the Spurs. I've stayed in basketball from playing to front office stuff since college, and kept myself busy with that. With what I do right now, it's mainly some scouting, big picture thoughts in general, but I'm not in the weeds every day with the guys in San Antonio. I'm living remotely. I'm living in Atlanta. I've been raising my kids. I wanted them all to kind of grow up in one place through high school, and my last one of 5 will graduate from high school in a couple months. And then we're empty nesters, and I'll still probably work some, but I'm also looking forward to enjoying my wife and travel and life and so on.
Yeah, by the way, folks, if you're just tuning in, if you're just realizing this, Danny and I figured out that we live about 1.5 miles from each other.
Yeah.
In Atlanta. Yeah, class of 89, we were both in the same dorm freshman year, and now here we are just around the corner from each other. I want to ask you a little bit about the NBA scouting stuff.
You were one of those guys on the first floor.
Yes.
You were a first floor guy. You were ground floor guy.
Yes, of Wanamaker. Yeah, which meant that I didn't have to stumble up the stairs every time there was a party at Kappa Sigs.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Claiming innocence. I know. I was there. I know. All right. I want to back on topic. When you are looking at these college kids, and we're specifically not going to name any names because, as someone involved in the NBA, you're not really allowed to do that. But when you're looking at these college kids, what are the things you see at the college level that grasp you as immediately translating? And what are the kind of things that some guys do in college that you go, that's just not going to work in the NBA? Like, is it size? Is it length?
It's a combination. It's a combination of things. It's first and foremost competitiveness. First and foremost, you really don't have much of a chance against the level of play and the number of times you have to play if you're not a highly competitive person. There's too many, especially in the playoffs where one play can make a difference in a whole game. You have to be on the whole time. Um, then it's length, athleticism, quality of teammate. A lot of things matter quite a bit, but really the core of it is for me is there's a level of competitiveness that's different, and there's in watching Duke this year, for example, there's a lot of those guys on that team that make it really fun to watch when you're scouting a game.
Yeah. Oh, I can definitely see that. Talk, very briefly about this current Duke team. You've seen them play several times in person. Give me an assessment of where they are, you think, relative to other college teams that you've seen around the sport this year.
Well, I think the debate we can have, because I think you understand it, is where do they compared to other Duke teams in the past?
Oh, yeah.
Let's start with that, because I think your listeners probably would enjoy that conversation as much as anything. First of all, I think they're easily one of the top three teams in college basketball right now this year. I think Auburn is really good. Alabama is very good, and Duke. And I think, that's easy to say when you look at it, then they're 1, 2, 3. But I think there is a tier that they are above everybody in my mind, based off the games I've been out and seen and followed and enjoyed as someone that was going to see the games for work, but also just someone that enjoys the game and loves watching it as a fan. But interesting in this discussion with you is where would they fall in Duke teams? And I was thinking about this before the interview, before we were going to sit down and talk. It's been a long time since there's been a Duke team that's been this good, from a competitiveness standpoint, from a skill standpoint, from a talent standpoint, from a depth standpoint. John Shire has done a great job of, and this has been a good year to have quality freshmen. And there's definitely that on this team. And what's been really nice is, with the transfer rule and the change in basketball, he's brought in a few guys that have played an integral part and can be an integral part of the team down the stretch, especially someone like Sion, and how important he has become to this team. It's a fun team to watch, and 20 years, I don't know, you follow, and have lived this as much as I have, as far as how good they are, but they're as good a team as at least 20 years, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like regular season wise, it's hard not to compare them to the 1999 team that was also just incredibly dominant in the ACC and was, I mean, so many of these games are functionally over at halftime. And I don't recall, I feel like it's been since 99 that there was a Duke team that was that much head and shoulders above the vast majority of the conference.
They can lose in the first round. They can, things happen. They had an injury last night that's going to be impactful if he doesn't get healthy. But they have a great chance to win it all. And, one loss knocks you out. One injury can really set you back. So a lot of things have to go right to win a championship and get to the Final Four, whatever it is that you would consider a successful season. But from a team standpoint, the competitiveness level of this group, the IQ of this group, the athletic ability and size of this group defensively, especially, really puts them, as far as how the regular season is going to go, really in the last 20 years, roughly, without dissecting roster by roster, this has been as good of a regular season as a team's had, and should be, whether they win or lose the national championship, should be remembered as that.
I like that. We say all the time on this podcast that the journey is worth more than the destination. Yes, we remember 2010, 2015, 2000, those teams that win the titles, the 91, 92 teams. But the journey to get there is really special and worth appreciating regardless of how it all ends, even though I think we all have great expectations for how this year is going to end.
To go to it, the team I was on my freshman year in '85, was arguably as good as any team for a lot of reasons that Duke's ever had. We didn't win.
You all set a record for NCAA. You all won 37 games. I think there's been one team that's equaled that in history.
We didn't win it, but it was still a great team, and that could be what happens to this team. Only one team's going to win it, but they are having a regular season or ACC season or whatever it is that's really been special, top tier, from Duke standards.
As long as we are sort of going down memory lane there, I still remember one of my favorite Coach K post-game interviews was after the national semifinal, when we had beaten Kansas, and you had come in the game at the very end of the game. Folks may not recall because this was a long time ago. You were like a part-time starter. You and Jay Billis sort of took turns alternating as starters on that team alongside Johnny Dawkins, Tommy Amaker, Mark Allery, and David Henderson. And on the final play where Duke won the game, there was a loose ball on the floor and you picked it up and laid it in for the winning basket. And Coach K in the post game, they asked him, they were like, "Hey, what made you decide to go with the freshman Danny Ferry down there in those final seconds?" And he said, "Well, I told Danny, pick the ball up off the floor and lay it in." Talk to me really quick about being a freshman in a huge moment and playing with all those experienced seniors and such. It's something that we don't really see that much anymore because there aren't that many great players who last beyond their freshman year. But back when you played, the best players were all much older.
Well, think about that year in the ACC, with Georgia Tech being so good with Mark Price and John Sally, Kenny Smith and Brad Doherty and the group of guys they had at North Carolina. NC State was good. Everyone, the conference at the time was a powerhouse. And, there weren't 20 teams in the ACC. There were 8 teams or whatever it was. And there were no nights off. The Duke team that year, with the experience that they had together, being a part of that, and it's part of the reason why I chose it. First of all, I really liked the people when I went on my visit, and I knew Billy King really well. Johnny Dawkins, I played against in high school. My brother played against him in high school, and I knew Johnny Dawkins was cool. Like, Johnny was cool. And Johnny, those guys, the group made Duke good. Johnny made the group cool. And it was an exciting time to be a part of the program. My freshman year, I knew I'd have some role on the team, but I knew after that there was a path for me to take a bigger load and a bigger role, and it was set up well, and they were going to play a way that was exciting and fun. And Coach K was, even then, when he was a young guy that no one knew, he was amazing to sit down and talk to, amazing to connect with. As far as what it was like as a freshman and fitting in, again, I was following the older guys' ways. I thought I worked really hard, and I worked very hard in high school. They taught me a whole different level of what work was. Johnny Dawkins, his work ethic was second to none as far as the investment that he put in to basketball and everything else around it that helped him be who he was and the player he was. And he set a standard for everyone to kind of chase. So as much as anything else that freshman year, I got out of it. I learned that those big moments, at the end of the year in those games, being on the court and having an opportunity was great. And at some level, it was just instincts that, a charge or a loose ball and being at the right place in the right time. And that happens. And I was fortunate enough to be in there to have those opportunities at times. Jay and I kind of split time. He was injured in the beginning of the year. He had I think it was a knee injury. So the first 20 games I started, the last 20 games he started, but it really gave me a great learning year to help along with Billy and Tommy Amaker the next year and Quinn and go down the list of guys to help Duke sustain the quality that they had started.
I want to reflect for a moment on the kind of player that you were, and then talk about that in modern terms, because back in the 80s, you were, big man size, but you very much had guard skills, ton of assists, a great outside shooter. And at the time that was it was unheard of. Wasn't something that we got from many, many players of your size. Well, fast forward to today in the modern pace and space switchable game. And, you have someone like a Cooper Flagg who's 6'9" and literally plays like a point guard half the time. And that's not even remotely uncommon for the game, even though Cooper, does it at a level that's a little different. I recall I was talking just a couple days ago with some fellow Duke fans about how, like, the great teams of the 80s and even the 90s, the Celtics, the Lakers, those kind of teams, Houston Rockets, how those teams would do in the modern NBA. You are someone who played in that era, and you're someone who is now closely observing the modern NBA. What is your thought about how the game has evolved, progressed? Would the 1980 Celtics be able to compete with the modern, Golden State Warriors, Oklahoma City, and the such like that?
Well, I mean, you can go through every area. My dad played at 6'8" and was the guy that guarded Wilt Chamberlain, and was not was a tough, skilled, big guy that chased around and tried to get in the way of Wilt Chamberlain, for example. So every year there's been an evolution for mostly the better as far as size, athleticism, strength, and skill. So would the players back then, with the standards being set now, be able to do that? I think a lot of them certainly could. The game's worldwide, so it's a bigger pool of players. The game has changed. And I think for the most part, I like the change. I like that skill is rewarded more. There's a physicality to the game that's probably missing a little bit that would be good to have. But in general, I love that. Maybe there's too many threes, but I love that it's a big part of the game. Steph Curry changed the game and changed everyone's. He's the 4-minute mile guy.
Yeah.
Where he kind of made it, well, I guess everyone can do it now. And then it turned into, Victor Wembanyama doing it now. I mean, it's 7'12". So I think in general, the game is great. I think the NBA does a great job of evolving and changing to try to continue for it to be great. And I'm sure there's going to be some changes in rules and so on. I don't think college does a good job at it. I think college is slower to adapt, slower to change rules. The rules are not as good. The thing that college has is it's college, though, and it's kids. And I think it's something people can identify with more. It's being part of a college and something people can identify, and the excitement of it all. And the NCAA tournament is unique. That it's still great and exciting and so on. I just don't think the quality of competition and the quality of officiating, the quality of rules, the quality of everything has kept up with the NBA.
Interesting. All right, we're going to take a quick break, Danny. On the other side, I want to hear a bit more about December 10th, 1988, the game where you set the record for scoring by a Duke player. We will have that, folks. Stick with us. All right, Duke fans, are you ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating, well, easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you.
And these meals are fantastic. They're delicious, nutritious, and they're easy to prep when you're on the go or have a really packed schedule like Jason and I do. And Jason, they have over 40 options on the menu each week, so it's easy to find something that meets your goals, whether it's being calorie smart, protein plus, or following a keto diet.
That's right. Eat smarter with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
Hey guys, want better performance in all areas of your life? If the answer to the above question is yes, try Joy Mode Daily to support healthier blood flow, improved heart health, and enhance your athletic performance. Expertly formulated and backed by science, it's proven to improve performance by 50% in just 60 days.
That's right. All you do is simply mix a booster pack with water, and you'll feel the effects within 45 minutes. Take control with Joy Mode. Get a boost anytime, anywhere, and never miss a beat. Start a subscription today and save up to 30%. Keep your performance at its best without any interruptions.
So if you're looking to take your game to the next level, visit tryjoymode.com and use code DukeBB at checkout for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. That's tryjoymode.com and use code DukeBB for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders.
All right, we're back from the break, joined again by Danny Ferry. Danny, I teased this earlier. So the night was December 10th, 1988. Me and my buddies went out to a sports bar because the game was not broadcast. There wasn't an ESPN or anything like that. I guess there was ESPN, but in any event, it was on the Sunshine Network. Duke was playing Miami. Miami wasn't even a part of the ACC. Had to be a decade before Miami joined the ACC at least. And you scored 58 points in a performance that is easily among the greatest games ever by a Duke player in history. That still stands today as the most points ever scored by a Duke player in a single game. Did you have a feeling? Did something feel different? Talk me through what that was like as the ball just kept on going through the bucket for you.
Well, there was no feeling or no thought necessarily. I don't remember much about the night. It was, you read about or hear about the zone. Everyone at some level, whatever they do, has had things where they're just locked in and simple and clear. And, you probably don't always remember everything. I don't really remember much unless I were to watch the game and say, oh yeah, I remember that. But if you ask me about the night overall, it's more that it was just kind of a blur, and it kind of just was game where I stayed in the present, in the moment, didn't get my own way, I think, more than anything else. And the ball went in, and it went in a lot. It's weird because it's one of the things that I'm, obviously as a player, you're proud of it, but you also don't remember it that well. So, because like I said, it was just a blur.
Were any of your teammates or any of the coaches, did anyone talk about like, hey man, you got to keep on doing anything like that?
I think
Quinn Snyder was your point guard. Was Quinn like, I'm going to feed you?
I think I had 28 or 30 at half, and one of my teammates said, you have 28 points at half. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I didn't think about it. And usually if I do that on a golf course and say, okay, you're even par at the turn, your
Right.
mind gets totally in the way. And, that for whatever reason didn't bother me, and I didn't think about it. And I just kind of kept playing, and kind of things unfolded in a way that I was able to maintain a level of being locked in that kept me from being distracted or, thinking about things or getting in my own way.
All right. I want to fast forward about 6 months after that. You get drafted number 2 by the LA Clippers, who
Right.
were one of the worst franchises. I mean, like, people don't understand. And you said, nope, I'm going to go play in Italy. Very controversial decision. Can you, reflect on that a little bit? I think, you think was it a mistake, or just, talk about what was going through your mind at that time?
Well, I grew up in the business, so to speak. I'm a circus kid. So I knew my dad, obviously, being the general manager of the Bullets. I knew people that had been in the Clippers organization in the past. I knew that it wasn't probably run in a way that was going to put it in a position to be successful. Um, from an ownership level, it was different. Um, but also the roster standpoint, Danny Manning, Joe Wolf, Kenny Norman, they had all these guys that we were all kind of the same position. So before the draft, I asked them not to draft me. Told them it didn't make sense, and that I wouldn't want to be there because just the roster fit didn't make a lot of sense. They drafted me anyway. And just it kind of unfolded in a whirlwind that night. A coach from Italy came up and stopped me in the streets in New York and said, would you be interested? We would pay X. And I kept his card, gave it to my dad, said, what the hell do I do with this? And kept the conversation going, and ended up unfolding that a deadline was given to the Clippers that if you don't do this, I'm going to go overseas. And they called my bluff. And then I gave them a couple more days. I said, I'm really going to go. I mean it this time. And they called my bluff again. And this was in August when the Italian team really needed to know what they were doing. Their season starts a little earlier. And I had to go. And wasn't my dream. It wasn't what I had always thought of doing. But in the end, I was put in a position where I can go make more money in Italy and go kind of have some leverage to come back and get traded, or kind of wait it out with the Clippers and see if they'd budge. And I didn't think they would. So I went, and it ended up to be a good year, minus getting injured. I banged knees with Bob McAdoo in the All-Star game, and ended up finding out later that kind of created a hole in my cartilage. It went bone on bone. And that affected me early on, especially in my NBA career, as far as being able to, I wasn't a great athlete, and I wasn't a good athlete even, as far as jumping and so on. And it took that away even more. But eventually, I kind of found my niche and did okay in the NBA overall. But it was a process getting there, and there was going to be a process anyway for me, just because of the athletic and speed of the game, and strength of the game and whatever. There was going to be an adjustment for me. But that's kind of how it unfolded with the Clippers in a nutshell.
Now, you went on eventually to win an NBA title as a member of the Spurs in 2003, I think was the year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you still have that? Do you wear that ring everywhere?
I've worn the ring maybe 5 minutes at a time, maybe 5 times.
Really?
Yeah, I have another one from being in the front office a couple of years later. It's those things are just impossible to wear. They're so big, and they're even bigger. They're even bigger now. But no, I don't wear it at all. It's like hidden in a very nondescript place. Um, and every once in a while, once every 4 or 5 years, I'll get it out and show my kids or look at it or whatever it is. But other than that, it's, the memory is really the biggest thing of being a part of that. And I didn't have a big role on the championship team. I had better years in San Antonio before that as far as play, but I had some injuries then. And I was getting old. I was 36 years old that year. But it was fun to be a part of it. And I did help in a playoff game, for example, for sure, to make myself feel more a part of it. But, that was really Tim Duncan, David Robinson, those guys' team. And I was myself and Steve Kerr and Kevin Willis and Steve Smith. We kind of all went along for the ride and rode their coattails. And Manu Ginobili, wow.
Yeah. Oh man. So look, you've been a front office guy for a while now.
Yeah.
And you've had to deal with free agency, deal with agents, all that other kind of stuff. What are your feelings about the way college basketball has evolved and, today regarding the portal, NIL, and all that other kind of stuff? Good, bad, indifferent? I mean, it's made for some crazy roster movement, that's for sure.
Well, even so, there is a good part. Like, I'm not opposed to guys getting money. And hopefully eventually it gets to a point where it's probably more fair and more teams have the money to give players. The transfer portal, I think, really turns it into a mess more than anything else, more than a help. And it's fine that kids can transfer, but there should be some governor on how much, or if they miss the first 10 games of the year or the next, whatever. There's got to be some solution that makes it not just a free flow. And there's a commitment from the player, there's a commitment from the school, and the school probably has to make more of a commitment as well, as far as, what they do for the 4 years or whatever it is. But there's got to be a better solution than there is right now. There's got to be, and it's complicated. In the NBA, there's a players union. There's someone to negotiate with. You have a union to negotiate with. I don't know who or what, and I'm not that familiar with it, but I don't know who you could even negotiate with from a college standpoint. And then you take into, it's not just basketball, it's football, it's girls basketball, it's lacrosse, it's soccer, it's like, the broad spectrum of sizes of schools and levels of conferences. It's a really, really complicated issue, it seems. And I don't know how it gets figured out, but college athletics has been, and I think will continue to be, a huge part of the United States and people's lives. And I think at some level it will work itself out. I just don't know that it's going to happen quickly or easily.
I think you're probably unfortunately right. Want to ask you really quickly about the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
I know from talking to you just briefly, you're still somewhat connected to Quinn Snyder, your old teammate, who is also in Atlanta, as the head coach of the Hawks. But how much is there? I would imagine that there's a little bit of a bond that, you and Billy King, Trajan Langdon, Mike Dunleavy, the guys who are Eldon Brand, guys who are, GMs currently or former GMs from the Duke program. But how much is there like a real connection among all the guys who have played in this program? It's a lot of guys. I know, and they're at a lot of different points in their lives, but.
Well, first of all, Jay Billis, Mark Allery, David Henderson, Tommy Amaker, Billy King, Kevin Strickland, Quinn Snyder, John Smith, that connection is the biggest and strongest connection that I have with Duke. with Coach K as well, and Bob Bender and Chuck Swenson, the coaches that were there at the time. That bond is that's the deepest and thickest brotherhood that all of us have. What it's done, the brotherhood is it's kind of promoted a connection amongst people from different ages and eras, that is enjoyed more. You feel more a part of it. They've done a good job of making you feel what's going on right now. You're a part of this. And that's really nice. It's really thoughtful that they have made that a priority, and it is a priority. And it's I think you have a connection with Elton Brand because of the Duke thing, but you also have an connection with Elton Brand because he's a really good guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that Coach K was valuable and important to Coach K is there's a lot of good guys that played at Duke. And it's fun to cheer for them when they're there because you feel like they're good guys. And it's fun to get to know them off the court and as life unfolds and as they become one of the old guys that comes back for games and so on. The brotherhood thing has really been a positive. It really has. And it's really created more of a fraternity, so to speak, and a connectivity amongst guys from different areas more than anything else. No one was going to take away my brotherhood with Billy King or Quinn Snyder.
Yeah.
No one. That's going to be, but it's created a brotherhood for me with Elton Brand, who I didn't play with, to, I'll be more excited in watching and feel more connected to Cooper Flagg or anyone still playing or anyone not playing. Again, it's been a really nice thing. It really has been.
It's beautiful. As fans, we admire it from afar and are jealous, so to speak. Hey, last question.
Well,
we
as fans have it, Cameron and the energy in Cameron is part of the brotherhood. It really is. I mean, there's, it's such a unique place, an exciting place to see a game. How
often do you get back? How many games a year do you think you get back?
I go to probably 3 games a year, 4 games a year at Dukes. And it's fun going there more than on the road. But in general, it's about 3 or 4 times a year I see him in person.
I've seen you before. We passed in the hallway at Georgia Tech games a few times. So yeah.
It's the other part of it. It's been really fun to watch some of these guys go out and coach and be everything and follow their teams. It gives you more teams to cheer for.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. All right. So I was going to say, final question. I do this with everybody I interview. Dozens of people have come before you, so the bar is high. We're going to ask for a Coach K story. I want somehow he motivated you guys, something funny that happened with him. Because you've got the early years. Most of the people I've interviewed are people who came a bit after you. So I want to hear. Give me your best. You won't believe what Coach K did this one time story.
Well, I think maybe.
By the way, I will go ahead and say that if you want to use salty language, we can put a little explicit label on the episode.
There's a lot of great experiences and stories and so on. I think it started with my recruiting visit. I played for a guy named Morgan Wooten in
DeMatha. Yeah.
DeMatha.
Yeah, a legend. One of the great high school coaches of all time.
And he never raised his voice. I heard him raise his voice. He didn't really yell. He raised his voice once. He never cursed ever, like in 4 years. And I go on my recruiting visit after being around Coach Wooten, and I go to a practice, and the first thing I do is go to the practice, and it turns into a lot of the F words or a lot of the F word, and a speech about how flexible that word is and how it can mean a lot of good things and a lot of bad things.
Wait.
And
He was giving a speech about dropping F-bombs.
yes, he gave a speech about dropping F-bombs and how it's like one of the most versatile words that there is. And I was like in shock, um, because I'm used to Coach Wooten, who didn't raise his voice, and Coach used his voice and used it with the F word and I was there. I was like, I'm in. Like, count me in. This is great. And it was, you know, uh, his ability to connect, coach, to go back to the recruiting visit. His ability to connect with a guy and empower him and make him feel important and make him, you know, bring out the best in people is really unique. And I chose Duke really because of that. And Duke was a great school. But I was going a different way too. And I was kind of excited by that.
I love it. That's a great answer, Danny. That's a lot of fun. Hey, maybe we'll have you back on some other time and you can give us another story because you got 4 years worth of them. Actually, more than that, you've got 40 plus years worth of them when you consider how long you've known Coach K. We really appreciate you joining us here on the DBR podcast. Thanks, man. And we'll all be rooting for you as we all watch the Spurs this year. That's a pretty exciting team that you're working with.
It's good people, and I'm excited to still be able to be a part of it.
There we go. All right, that's going to wrap it up here for us on the latest edition of the Duke Basketball Roundup, the DBR podcast. Donald and I will be back in your feeds probably in the next 24 hours with a preview of the big contest against Illinois. Until then, he's Danny. I'm Jason. This is the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home. I can't hear you at all. Nothing. This is going to be a really boring interview. I see your lips moving. I don't hear anything.
How's that?
Ah, there you are.
Good.
Thanks, man.
How's the background? Okay, or should I mute it?
No, you're fine. We're actually doing this just for audio.
Okay.
So there's no visual aspect of it involved.
Okay.
Hence me not shaving today.
I just shaved. I just got my electric razor and did a brush over.
You look fabulous, man. I wish I could.
Thank you, but I'm only looking good for you.
You're so kind. You are so kind. I'm also a film critic.
Okay.
Yeah. Love the movies. So.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same. What's your favorite movie now?
In the current crop, Honora, unquestionably.
Yeah, I liked it. I haven't seen everything, but I enjoyed that.
There's a really great movie that I think was criminally underappreciated. Have you heard of this film, September 5th?
I watched it last week and I thought it was excellent.
It's amazing. I mean, I'm Jewish, so like, and in fact, I'm on the board of directors of the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival, which is the largest film festival in the state of Georgia. And I was like, a film about a Jewish story and journalists and sports, like injected into my veins. This couldn't be more in my wheelhouse. I thought that was just a remarkable film. I like films about processes, and that was very much a process film.
Right. Right. I thought that was very good.
What was your favorite last year? Like of the Oscar contenders. Did you see The Brutalist?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's a long sit, man. It's more than 3 hours. The first 2/3 is great, and then it gets a little frustrating, but it's remarkable movie making. Either that or Nora.
I like Conclave overall. I liked it.
Excellent.
I'm trying to think of what I have seen that was. What else is there? What else would there be?
So, I got a crazy one for you. Did you see The Wild Robot?
No.
Okay, animated film from Universal DreamWorks, and you are a parent who is about to be an empty nester, dealing with kids leaving you. This movie, bring along 2 or 3 boxes of Kleenexes, man. It is
What's the name of it again?
The Wild Robot. It's an animated film about a robot that ends up raising a baby duckling. And I mean, it is just outstanding. Easily the best animated film of the year. It's an amazing.
Has there been a better, because you probably do television as well with Netflix and all that stuff that's out there now.
Yeah, I do a lot of that.
Over the last so many years, like I don't know that TV's ever been better or more watched
There's
than
so
it is
much
right
content.
now.
Yeah, there's so much content.
And some of it is so good.
You watch Severance?
Yeah, it was freaking awesome.
I love Severance.
Yeah. And there's some of it has just been so good over the last 10 years or whatever it is that and everyone watches it now. Like everyone, like the time in front of a TV is ridiculous now.
I will tell you, as a movie purist, as someone who's, been at least connected through reviews and stuff to the movie industry for decades, I do lament the fact that people are getting more and more away from the in-theater experience. I think especially a film like The Brutalist, like Anora for that matter, watching them in a theater versus watching it on your home screen, it's just not the same experience.
No, it's not. Although the theaters in your home can be pretty nice now.
That's true. Yes.